back with a Harrington Life Update episode. Peter is back on the show today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We've had a bunch of big changes happening, and currently we're in South Lake Tahoe. I've said that before on the podcast. We're going to spend about 6 weeks here, and that was not planned. This has all been quite the journey getting here. We also just found a house that we are moving into that we're super excited about, and literally all of this was manifested. So we want to kind of do a life update and what's on the horizon and all the expansion and up leveling that's been happening right now.
Gosh, when you mention all that stuff all in one little concise bubble there, oh my goodness, the last 3 months has been quite the roller coaster for sure.
Yeah, so let's back up and walk people through it. So we moved to Arizona last September. We just decided in August that we were going to go. We found a rental and we moved within 6 weeks. And then we were there, we were liking it, but our landlord basically decided in March of this year that they were going to sell the current place.
There was a lot of stuff with that house. The house was amazing, but there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes with them that just didn't work for us. And so, quick sidebar, it's like I had some red flags about that specific place, even going back to last August, September. But, you know, we made the best decision we could under the current circumstances. And then moving forward, it just wasn't in alignment with us.
Yeah.
And our
and
family.
I didn't know you had red flags at the time.
Yeah.
Like you did not share those with me. And so that's like a lesson we'll be talking about later on the podcast is listening to those red flags. But they told us in March they were going to sell. We actually went into talks with them about buying it from them and making a deal with them. We were working out details, but they continued to keep showing the house while we were doing that. And so they got a full offer, or basically full offer, and they decided to take it. So we found out after being in negotiations and talks with them and like, hey, maybe we're not moving, that we were officially moving. We found out like beginning of May.
Yeah, that whole thing was like, are we buying this house? Are we not? What's going on? That stumbled along for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And so we finally figured out the first week of May, we're moving, and we're moving in 4 weeks. We're not buying this house, and here we go. And then we already had a couple of trips scheduled then. And then it was Memorial Day weekend, you know, the moving weekend of the year.
Yeah, I had my mastermind event. All the things, and my mastermind event was at the house before we moved out. But we were looking, and we just weren't finding anything that we liked in Arizona. And that's kind of the first thing I want to touch on with this podcast episode today is that you don't have to take the options if you don't like them. Mm-hmm. I think so many people look at their options and they don't like them, but they think they're limited. And so they force themselves to pick from something that they don't even really like in the first place. And then they end up being resentful, unhappy, things work out not as good, like all the things. Yeah. So this time we were like, no, we really want to get what we want. And there's nothing on the market. The market's terrible right now in Arizona. When I say terrible, it's like a million times worse than it was last August.
Yeah, it's sort of things like a house 20 years old, no upgrades, ugly, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, traditional rental for like $8,000 a month, $10,000 a month, stupid money.
Yeah.
And then anything that was nice that like we wanted a couple of upgrades, room for your office, room for my office, Lord forbid, like workout space. Gosh, we were looking crazy monthly payments. Or it was just we're getting all these offers or we're getting no's or whatever. So we had like 2 or 3 deals on the table. Back up a little bit. In March, we walked through some houses right before we thought, oh, we're buying our current house. And none of those really panned out. We're thinking, well, you know what? All these rentals are going to be coming on the market in April, May. So we'll just hang tight. And it got crazier as it kept going. And so it really came down to a couple of deals on the table. And it was like, I don't really like this one. And I really don't like that one. And this one's way out in the boonies. So it's going to be a 40-minute commute. Like, what is this? And it was just really trying for us in that spot of not really getting what we wanted or totally, completely break the bank.
Well, and part of me was like, you should just suck it up. Like, stop being so difficult. Like, just take what you can and like, stop being so picky. It's that inner voice that a lot of women hear. And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily you, and it doesn't mean that it's necessarily how you have to live. And so for me, it was a struggle fighting that voice and saying, no, you deserve to have a place that you love. You deserve to have what you want, and you can. And so actually, we started talking about other places. We were like, do we go out of state? Do we go move somewhere else? Like, maybe we're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, we had Austin, we had California, we had Florida, I mean, all the things, back to Colorado. We had like 6 different variables of places we could potentially go, or throw everything in storage and go overseas and live in another country for a year or two. Oh my goodness, we had every single decision on the menu there, is what it felt like.
And actually, that was more overwhelming. Like, having more options was even more overwhelming, because now we were like, now we're totally lost.
Because it's like, do it this one or this one. Well, that one's clearly better. Let's do this one. Nope, didn't have that.
It's a good place to be because you want to be open, but it was almost more overwhelming. And then having that weigh on you more so than me, I know it really affected you and your business and how you were showing up in our relationship and like all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Because indecision will kill your energy. Like, indecision is an energy sucker. So the faster you can make decisions, the more energy you will have.
I know we talk a lot about masculine and feminine, and I'm just going to briefly touch on that here. So masculine energy, and we all, again, reiterate, we all have masculine and feminine energy inside of us. We're not talking male, female. So I have both masculine and feminine energy, as do you.
Yeah.
Predominantly in our core essence, we're either one or the other. And so, newsflash, big surprise, I'm predominantly masculine energy. And masculine energy is all about mission, vision, direction, purpose, goals, I'm oriented on where I'm going, single purpose, having clear-cut, defined things. Think bullet points, think running a meeting with beginning, middle, end. Think those kinds of things. And so having way too many options on the table, or something that just clearly doesn't work, or even worse, I'm failing on my mission because I'm not able to make this work in the financial situation that we're in right now, and make my family happy and make myself happy. It's like I'm failing the mission. And that's the underlying energy there that I was like walking in every single day with. And I didn't really know that always at the time, but that's where it's like indecision is several layers below that. Is you failed the mission. You're failing the mission. And in which case, then that clouds everything else in my world.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, to your point, I want to bring that up too. At this time, we were not financially ready for a move. And I don't mind just throwing that out there,
sure,
because I think more people should talk about this. Entrepreneurs get used to riding a little bit of a roller coaster when it comes to their money. Not always. And you definitely want to get yourself to the point where you have more money working for you and coming in than opposite. But when you are growing businesses, and we're still in a lot of the growing phase, both of us, you ride this roller coaster of a lot of money coming in, a lot of money going out. And this year in particular, we had a lot of money go out at the start of the year. We invested in Light Pink, which is an awesome company. We invested in a mastermind. We invested in a coach. And so like we tied up a lot of our money at the start of the year.
And ongoing in our businesses.
Yeah.
So we're actively investing in my businesses, in your businesses. And so we're actively investing in those. And so it's kind of like the start of the year, we're like, we're going to stay in this house for another 12 months, kind of got that thing figured out. And then of course, anytime you make plans, that's one way to make God laugh.
And moving.
Because we have to move in a month or two.
Moving is a big expense. It's not only a down payment, it's like double the rent, right? Double the payment while you're still paying another place that you're living.
Yeah.
Plus like movers and all the things and time and energy. And so when we were looking at numbers, we were like, how are we even going to make this happen? Like, how is this even going to happen for us, especially the kind of numbers in Arizona with the houses and the housing market and all the things. And so all of May, it was really this, like, we're in an impossible situation. We're in a situation where we don't have the numbers aren't adding up. The places aren't looking right. Like it felt like literally everything was out of our control.
Yeah. I want to say one more thing here. in our dynamic, in our relationship dynamic, a lot of times I had been in this role of trying to secretly figure out what Joy wants and then make that happen. And so that's my wounded state. That's my shadow self of, I had the snot beat out of me, or I had the world kicked me in the teeth, whatever it was. And so then I went into hiding. And so then from that hiding place, for years, we had lived with this energy of Peter tries to subconsciously, secretly figure out what Joy wants. And then Peter goes into action mode to try to make Joy happy. And so we had this backdrop of that energy for years, over a decade in our relationship. And so this move this time around was totally different. First of all, I'm trying to stay in my healthy masculine power. And secondly, I think I did throw out a bone a couple of times, like, what do you really, really, really want? And it wasn't like I was trying to trick you, but it was more like I genuinely wanted to know what's going to make you happy. And you gave me essentially a blank check. You know what? It could be Arizona. It could be Texas. It could be Florida. It could be Colorado. It could be, and that dynamic was something that we hadn't faced before in our marriage.
Yeah. Well, I was really trying, and I was working through this with my coach to not just take over. I'm awesome at just like taking over and being like, okay, fine. Like, here's the plan. Like, I'll come up with like, this is what I want. Like, this is what we're going to do. And then Peter like makes it happen. Right. And so this was the first time where I really was stepping back from that. And it was excruciating because I had no plan. Like, we had no plan. I had nothing to look at and be like, oh, I know what we're doing in 4 weeks. And so it was excruciating for me to create safety within myself and within our relationship without knowing what our life was going to bring and what he was going to decide and how we were going to make it work and all the things. And at the same time, it was the first time where I really didn't have the vision. Like, before, I've always felt like I've known. I've been like, yeah, I know we're going to move. Like, I see it, like I feel it, like all the things. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm totally open at this
10 months ago, it was like, we're going to Arizona. Let's do this. And this time around, it was like, we have to move.
Yeah. And we've also been up leveling in our relationship.
Yeah.
Because as we've talked about before, our relationship had come to an end in the end of February.
Yeah.
And then we came together in March and said, let's see what the next 2 months brings. And looks like both of us going all in together. And then at the end of those 2 months, it was like, well, this is our opportunity to say, hey, like, we're doing this, we're going to be together, we're building a relationship together, we're building a family together. And so therefore the house is going to reflect that.
Yeah. And
so there was a part of these houses that were just okay that I was like, this isn't reflecting where I feel we're at in our relationship. Mm-hmm. And while we can quote unquote suck it up and do the quote unquote smart thing and just do something like that, it felt like it wasn't energetically lining with where our relationship was and this like new relationship that we're having and this new path that we're establishing and all the up leveling that's happening right now. Yeah,
absolutely. And I want to say this, like, there's no right or wrong here. When you remove the labels, well, this was a bad thing, this was a good thing. Like, when you step outside of those constructs and that rigid framework and you look at, there's lots of different scenarios we could go with this. What's the one that's in most alignment with where we're at right now, May, June of 2021, and what fits our family and our relationship and where we want to go in this next chapter of our life? The book's not totally written. We're just looking at the next few pages, the next chapter. And that was actually really, really freeing, instead of this permanent failure. You blew it, you did it wrong, or whatever. So when I looked at it from that point of view of, we're going to try something, we're going to have some fun. And like one of our coaches was talking about, I always love talking to you guys because don't know exactly what's going on. There's always something exciting happening. And that's actually really, really special to think of it in terms of, like, we are the fun couple. We do have a lot going on. We have all these different things, and you know what? In a few months, we might be in a totally, completely different place, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And so that was actually really special to think of, versus the opposite of you're getting kicked out of your house. You don't know where you're going. Good luck. Yeah, you're failing the mission, blah, 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 blah. The alternative is old shadow self that we don't want to be there.
And we also, really quickly to throw in, we also wanted to travel. We were like, Arizona's so hot in the summer. We know we're going to want to get away. We want to leave. How are we financially going to leave while we're also putting an extra down payment on a house? And then we're going to pay for a house while we're gone traveling. Like, yeah, that can happen in a year. Sure. We'll be able to leave and still pay for a house that's left behind. But where we were right then, we weren't planning for all of that. Yeah. So we were like, we have no idea how this is going to work out.
So fast forward, this is what happened.
Yeah.
We hired movers, threw everything in storage. Guess what? One storage unit wouldn't quite fit. So there was a second storage unit in place. And
we decided to rent an Airbnb to give us time.
Booked an Airbnb, like, you know, just like, here, let's leave it. Let's kind of be in a holding pattern. We're going to circle the airport once or twice. That first landing didn't go so well. So let's circle for a little bit.
That's another lesson I really want you guys to take away right now is like, you don't have to make a decision right now if you don't feel right about it. And so the number one thing we looked at was like, what do we need right now? We need peace, we need calm, and we need time. Like, we need time to make all of these decisions. So rather than dealing with a move out and finding a house and doing a down payment, like, let's spread some of this out. So we were like, let's just move out. That's it. Like, that's the one thing we're going to do right now. And then we'll focus on finding a house. Instead of doing all things at once, we're going to give ourselves time.
And my brain could only take so much. And I think that's something everybody, you know, and if you can take a whole lot, if your capacity for pain is really, really, really big, guess what? You're dampening a lot of joy in life. And so for me, like, I'm a truck. I can carry a big, heavy load. And I also get to say, do I really, really want that?
Correct.
Because for everything that you do in your life that goes a certain way, there's always another reaction like counterbalancing it. And so if I make a decision, you know what, I'm going to overload myself and I'm going to do 5 different things all at once and blah, 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 blah. You know what? That's where relationships end. That's where people get in a car accident or some other type of horrible thing that happens that, you know, they die or something really, really tragic happens. And so sometimes, like, especially for me, like, I had to say, you know what? I can't do all this right now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do one thing.
Yeah. So let's fast forward through what actually happened.
We moved out, got everything in storage, rented a place in Scottsdale for 3 weeks. At the end of 3 weeks, still didn't have a spot. So a few days before that 3-week rental was up, we're like, you know what? Let's choose between a couple of destination spots. Is it Southern California or is it Tahoe or Colorado? Well, we landed on Tahoe. We'd always wanted to go and visit here. So we went to Lake Tahoe.
But hold on, back up. Because before we left for Lake Tahoe, we had really come down to 2 places.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because one of them was the quote unquote smart choice that we were like, you know what? We should do this. We should make this work. And it'll be okay. But it was going to take a little more extra work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to, the lease was going to start like a week after we would leave for Tahoe. And we were like, okay, we can make all of this work. Like,
and I had a couple red flags.
You had a couple red flags, which again, I didn't know. Or it was this other house that was like the house of my dreams. I literally manifested this house. It had a 4-poster bed in it, which is, if I've been manifesting like a house in my visualizations for a year now. And I keep seeing, every time I visualize it, I see a 4-poster bed in it. And I was always like, that's so weird because we don't have a 4-poster bed. Like, I don't sleep in a 4-poster bed. And this house comes furnished with really nice furniture. It's beautiful. It's in the location that we want. It has an amazing pool. It has the space that we want. Doesn't quite have the yard, has a little bit of space.
Yeah.
But we already know, like, it's not our long term. Like, we're going to buy next time. And so as an intermediary, it's like a dream house. But I was like nervous about it because it's a massive up level financially.
Yeah.
And while I know we could quote unquote make it happen, there's like this voice inside of me that was like, you shouldn't, like, you should just be smart. Like, you should just not ask for that. And honestly, I think it came down to more so what had been going on with us energetically for the last few years, and feeling a distrust there in, if I fall, will you catch me? Like, if we fall, will you catch me, or am I going to be responsible for this? And so it wasn't really even about the house. It was more so about, I think, our dynamics. And it's funny because Peter wanted to do this house. He wanted to make it work. And I was the one being like, no, we should do the smart one. Like, we should just blah, 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 blah. Even though I wanted the nice house, but I was like, no, I shouldn't, because I need to be safe. And I need to know if we fall, like there's less far to fall.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like in every area of our life, if it's felt like we've gotten at, we're not playing the pennies and nickels and dimes game anymore. It's like every single area of our life, it's a lot bigger. The stakes are a lot bigger.
Yeah.
It's a lot more potential, but it's also there's a lot farther to fall. And that's a scary place for anybody to be in, and also exciting. And so when we were able to step into that, it was really special to see, you know what, let's go on an adventure together. Let's make this happen together.
So we started driving to Tahoe.
We started driving to Tahoe. We had just left a rest area. We're most of the way to Lake Tahoe. I'm getting a call from the realtor late, like 4:30 in the afternoon. We have 3 more hours to drive to Lake Tahoe.
Which, really quickly, with this house, I was like, okay, here's how we're going to know if it's like ours. We're going to ask for less. We're going to like negotiate the price with them, and we're going to get it, and it's going to like work out for us. And she told us when we were asking her, like, was he open to negotiating the price? She goes, well, we have someone flying in from New York tomorrow that's walking through that's willing to pay more. So like, if they're willing to pay more, then for sure he's not willing to negotiate. And this person is super interested. Like, they're flying all the way here to walk through it. And that was the day we were driving to Tahoe. So I told myself, I think I told you too.
Yeah.
I was like, here's how we're going to know that person's going to be a bust that's walking through the house, and they're still going to be able to negotiate the price with us. And we're still going to get it, even though they have people supposedly wanting to pay more.
And it was
which seemed so unlikely.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, like, this is how I want to know if this is a sign. I'm going to ask for like the impossible.
Especially with all the other places that we look at falling through. And it's like, we want this one, but we want it at a deal.
Yeah.
And we want all these other details to fall into place. So she calls back at like 4:30, 4:40, late in the afternoon. We already been driving 8 hours. Mm-hmm. And so she talks to me, and I'm like, all right, we're in the middle of Nowheresville, might lose coverage, but what do you got? And so she's like, they want to work with you. So the owners want you guys as their tenants. And we're excited to make this happen. And we can totally give you a discount like you asked for and all the things, but one little problem. And I'm like, okay, what's that problem? The owners, they hadn't been there for a year because of COVID. And so they'd actually been out in Colorado, and they want to actually stay in this house for a week or two over July 4th and some of these other things. So could you possibly make it work middle of July 12th start date? I'm looking over at you. I quickly mentioned that to you, and we both were like, hell yeah, of course we can, because that gave us the permission slip that we'd been looking for to go have fun for another 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we could travel, and we didn't have to hurry back there in 10 days because it's blah, 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 blah. No, we had the option. We had the flexibility to have our cake and eat it too.
And they were going to prorate us because of that. So they're like, we're giving you a discount. We're going to prorate it, and you get to stay on
We'll give you a week off. Like, you can move in here, but we'll give you a discount and it all worked out. It was just like all the pieces just like literally slid into fit.
And nothing had to be forced. Nothing had to be hard. Like, it was all easy, and it worked out better than we thought it could have, better than we would have even thought to ask for. And that's always my sign. Like, and that's what I want you guys to take away from this episode too, is that like, it should be easy. It should be better than you would have imagined. And like better than you thought you could ask for. And so stop settling. Like stop again thinking you have to rush to make a decision and then settling. Like let yourself want what you want.
And here's the crazy thing. We got all that information and we got that answer almost 7 weeks after we started looking. So like both of us wanted it to be all figured out first week of May or last week of April. We wanted everything figured out. We wanted all of our details figured out. And guess what? The decision ended up happening almost 7 weeks later. And so the patience to wait, the patience not to I have this life saying, don't hurry up to do a bad job.
Yep.
So, we could have hurried up and grabbed something back in early May, which would have most likely been a mistake or not in alignment with the new direction we're going.
Yeah.
And so we could have hurried up to do a bad job way back then at any point along the way there. And so it just happened to be this one took almost 7 weeks.
So it is in Arizona. It's in Scottsdale. It's actually in Paradise Valley, which is awesome. It's way closer to everything. And I have space to host events there, which I'm very excited about.
Incredible views. Incredible space. It gives us everything we want.
Incredibly inspiring. It makes you feel expansive. It makes you feel wealthy. All the things that I like to feel in a house. And we'll be back on July 18th to move in.
Yeah.
We're super excited.
And it worked out so well because then we can schedule movers, we can schedule all the things that need to happen. We don't have to be in a hurry for all these things.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was so cool.
So that's our little update for you guys. And we plan on coming back to talk more about masculine and feminine energy and more about the expansion and up-leveling that's happened in our relationship. I know you just heard me talk about how we ended things in February and you're probably like, wait, what the heck? Because we haven't talked about that on the podcast yet. There's a lot to fill you in on. So we will come back and be sharing more about that and just how to transition from the mundane in your relationship to actually bringing back a real genuine spark and falling in love all over again. That's what I think I would say.
I love it.
Anything else to add?
I think you just completely tied that up and put a bow on it. That's great.
And for sure how it affects your intimacy, because that's definitely been better. All right. Anything else you want to throw in before we wrap up?
Thanks for having me on here. And this was super exciting.
All right. That's our little update. We're excited. There's a lot coming. There's a lot of up-leveling and expansion happening in our businesses and things that we're going to be offering for you guys too. So stay tuned. Yeah. We're very excited.
So excited.
All right. Go have a beautiful day. Remember, if you love this episode, take a screenshot. You can tag us on Instagram. Tell us what your takeaway was when it comes to making decisions and owning your desires and giving yourself time and permission to actually want what you want and expect to get what you want. I think it's expecting that too. That's so important. So, all right. Can't wait to hear from you on the gram. Go have an amazing day.